Hey there, Jam Play Nation. I'm Tyler Grant. Thanks for joining me today. This is week 5 of our live lesson series on classic Americana songs and tunes. This has been really fun digging into some of this material. Today we're going to learn a classic tune. This is a song you know, and you've probably sang it in childhood, possibly, with kind of more modern made-up words. But this goes way back into traditional Appalachian fiddle music. And this is a tune called Arkansas Traveler. You know this tune, and you've probably heard it in some sort of campy settings. But it's actually a really cool tune. And I'm going to show you some things you can do with it to make it really sound cool and be a really fun jammer. Okay, so let me just kind of play the tune for you because you know this, you've heard it. It goes like this. You know that one. So let's get into it here. I think what I should do first is play the entire example along with the rhythm track. And I would say, Chris, go ahead and put up the lead sheet. And you all can follow along with the tab while I sort of demonstrate the arrangement. And this is just kind of a bare bones version of the melody. That's what a lead sheet is. A lead sheet is simply the melody and the chord changes written out. From there, you can expand on this and improvise on it and do all kinds of treatments on the guitar. So here we go. I'll just go ahead and play it along with the track so you can hear how it goes. Okay, so that is, a performance tempo. We're going to be starting much slower, and I'll coach you through this one little bit at a time. So having a look at the lead sheet, let's come back to the taters, okay? I'll kind of go through that on its own. Let's just start with the actual melody. So that happens on the second line, the second system there. You'll see the start repeat. And you'll see this big series of 16th notes. And it goes like this. So first of all, I should clarify that we are capo 2, okay? So go ahead and take a moment to get your capo on the 2nd fret and get yourself in tune with a C chord. Okay? Now, capos come in all different shapes and sizes. This is a rather fancy one. This was part of the prize for winning the National Flat Picking Championship. There was a guitar, there was a cash prize, there was a custom hat, a capo. All of this fancy stuff came with that. That was a happy day in my life. I normally wouldn't pay the amount. This is a Phil Elliott capo. These are custom made, really nice. But there are lots of other capos that are much less expensive that do the same thing. Shub makes a good one. D'Addario Planet Waves makes a good one. Some of them are like this, where you tighten them up from the back. Some of them, like the Shub, you kind of tighten it ahead of time and then clamp it down. And then you got your regular old Kaiser clip-on capos. Those are fine too. It's nice to be able to adjust the tension. So I like the one that screws on the back here. And D'Addario makes a really nice one, D'Addario Planet Waves. And it's like 20 bucks or something. These are real expensive. I don't know how much they are. You have to contact Phil Elliott and get your order. You have to send him the measurements of your neck and everything. They might be, I don't know, 150 bucks or more. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so now you got your capo all set. We're going to be playing out of C position this whole time. Now, I opted for C position because there are some specific techniques that I wanted to get into, especially the melody strum technique, which works really, really well out of C position. You can go ahead and play this song out of open D, and that works just fine. If I'm at a jam, I'll just do whatever the other guitar players are not doing. Like if someone's already playing out of capo 2, I'll go ahead and play an open D because that's a nice contrast. If someone's playing an open D, I'm going to capo 2. If I'm playing this solo, I capo it. And I often would capo it on the 3rd fret just for a little bit more chime. But it is a D tune. The fiddles play this in D, the mandolins play this in D, so we're going to learn it in its proper key of D. So here you go, play a C chord, and this will actually sound like a D chord because you're capoed. And the first measure of the actual melody of the A part is measure number 3, the second system, second line on the page, and it starts on a C. I'm just going to say the notes as if we're in open position, okay? So 3rd fret here with your 3rd finger, and then 2nd fret of the D string, and then open, right back down to the tonic note there, 3rd fret, and then open A string, 3rd fret of the low E 2 times, and then right back to the tonic note. Okay, it's easier to explain this stuff as if we're in open position. Just imagine this is the nut and you're reading the tablature as if this is open position. So I'm going to keep saying the notes in C, okay, to keep this more clear and consistent. You could obviously take off the capo and play this in C, and that's fine too, but you won't be in the same key as we are, so you're going to need that capo for today. So there you go, that first measure goes... Okay, and if you're studying your C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, with its scale degrees, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 1, 2, 3, this would go 1, 3, 2, 1, 6, 6, 5, 5, 1. So it always helps to analyze these melodies as they relate to the major scale, because then you can transpose them to any other key, you can relate to other tunes that are similar, and all that. I go into this in a lot of detail in all of my courses on jam play, namely the Bluegrass flat picking method course. We really get into this concept of finding melodies by ear. But anyway, there you go. There's the first measure. Second measure goes to the open D string twice, 2nd fret twice, then open, 2nd fret open, back to the tonic note, open A, low G. Okay? So let's play those first 2 measures. Notice I've got the pick strokes written out. Every time there's a 16th note, you do alternating strokes. Whenever there's 8th notes, it's just straight down strokes, okay? So this goes down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, okay? So do the best you can here. We'll go really slow through those first 2 measures. Ready, and a slow E, and that's half of the A part. It's actually 2/3 of the A part, 3/4 of the A part, because the next measure, you do the first measure again. And then we've got the turnaround. And this turnaround is the same on the A part and the B part. So you're getting a lot of material here in very few measures. And this goes up to the high C note, first fret of the B string, and then open, right back to the first fret, open G, second fret, open B, up the scale, right there to the tonic note again, and then second fret of the G string, right down the scale. Okay, so that measure goes. Those are all alternating strokes, okay? So, and that is the turnaround. That's the phrase that happens at the end of a section of a fiddle tune. And often, as is the case in this tune, the turnaround is the same for the A section and the B section. So you've already got a head start on the B section here. And that's the entire A part, okay? Those 4 measures, and then they repeat. So let's go ahead and play them really, really slow, and then repeat them. 1, 2, ready, and a go, E, and there you go. There's the entire A part. Okay, so moving on to the B part, this would be measure 7. It's written on the page. It's the 3rd line, the 3rd system. And this is another 4 measure section that repeats. It's spread out over 2 lines because there's some busy 16th notes in there and it took up more space on the page. So you start on the high G note here, 3rd fret of the high E string. And this is a neat little sequence lick. It kind of does a 3 note, then back to the first note, then the next 3 notes, then the next 3 notes. So that's a sequence lick. I could play that all the way down the scale. Sequences are a nice tool when you're jamming and improvising in any style, really. Jazz players use sequences. Rock and roll players use sequences. It's just a repeating figure that kind of works its way up or down a scale or a certain set of notes. So here we go. Start on the 3rd fret of the high E with your 3rd finger, and then 1st fret, open. Back to the 3rd fret, 1st fret, open. 3rd fret of the B string, back to that 1st fret of the high E, then open E, down the scale, open E, 3rd fret of the B string, and then an open G. Okay, so let's do that measure one more time. That's the bulk of the material here. So one more time, 3rd finger, 3rd fret of the high E, 1st fret, open, right back to the 3rd fret, 1st fret, open, 3rd fret of the B string, 1st fret of the high E, open E, 3rd fret of the B string, 1st fret of the B string, open E, 3rd fret of the B, open G, okay? So let's play that in context in time. Da 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 do. Alternating strokes the whole way, except those last 2 notes are both downstrokes. So here we go really slow. Ready and a slow E and Okay. Then next, you got the tonic note, 1st fret of the B string, 2 times downstrokes. Then the 3rd fret 2 times. Open E. These are going to be alternating strokes now. 3rd fret of the B, 1st fret, open E, 3rd fret of the B string. Okay, so that measure in context sounds like. And then you got these pickup notes, open and 1st fret of the high E, to land back on that same figure you did in the first measure of the B section. So those are pickups. Then how do we end this whole section? Same little turnaround as the A section, okay? So let's go ahead and try this entire B section, measures 7 through 10, the 3rd and 4th systems, 3rd and 4th lines. Here we go, really, really slow. And we'll play that and we'll repeat it, okay? Ready and a slow E and repeat. Wonderful. So I've got a really slow rhythm track on this one, 40 beats per minute. So let's go ahead and try the whole tune, the A section repeated, and the B section repeated. So in other words, starting on measure 3, we're skipping the 2 bars of taters. We'll go over that in a minute. And we'll just play the complete A part repeated, complete B part repeated, measures 3 through 10. Okay? Here we go. Find my slow rhythm track here. I'll count you in. A 1, 2, ready and go and. How'd you do? I'll bet you'd like to try that one more time. I sure would. Let's go ahead and play that one more time. We're just reinforcing the sound of this melody in our ears and getting the notes under our fingers that much better. So let's play it one more time with the rhythm track, slowest tempo. A 1, 2, ready and a go, E and a. Okay, wonderful. So let's go ahead and review the chord changes here. I wrote out a measure of a boom strum rhythm. We've kind of done this same thing each week of this. So this is a bit of a review, but how to play a boom strum rhythm on the 3 chords that exist in this song. The 1, the 4, and the 5. Your primary chords in the key of C. So your C boom strum is simply you play the root note, you strum, then you play the 5th, and you strum. 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5. Now on the strums, I only wrote, the 3 treble strings. You're just kind of focusing on the treble strings. You don't want to play the bass note again, but you can actually play all of the remaining, all of the strings that are left along with that strum there, okay? But it's supposed to be percussive. It's supposed to be like, in other words, not brushy. It's like bam, boom, bam, boom, bam, boom. Okay? Like you're swinging a hammer. You want to hear all those notes at once. So there's a C boom strum rhythm. F boom strum is the same thing on an F chord. Now you could opt for a long F, what I call a long F, where you got both the root and the 5th held down. I often advocate for this fingering of an F chord because it's almost like just a collapsed C chord. You've got your 3rd finger in the same place. Your 1st and your 2nd fingers move up a string, so to speak. Your 1st finger kind of collapses across both of those strings. 2nd finger moves up to the G string, and then the 4th finger tucks right in on the 3rd fret of the D string. So that is a nice, easy chord change, fingering-wise. And then obviously going to the G7 is easy from C because you're just spreading out all your fingers to the next string group. So your 1st finger goes up to the high E, and your 2nd and 3rd fingers move down to the low E and A strings. Okay? And on a G7 chord, the boom strum would be your low G note, strum, open D, strum, alternating between the two of those. Now, some of the chords move beat by beat in this song. In other words, the beginning of it goes C, F, G, C. So you don't even have time to alternate your bass notes. You're just hitting a root, strum, root note, strum, root note, strum, root note. And then you got a full measure of G7, so you can alternate your bass notes there. Then you got the 1, 4, 5, 1 again. C, F, G7, C. Then 2 measures of C, and I would play the bass note twice. Then you're fresh for your G7, C. So that's the A part, okay? Let's go ahead and try the A part together, as I just played. 1, 2, ready, and a go, and C, F, G7, C, back to G7 for a full measure, C, F, G7, C, 2 beats of C, play the bass note twice, and then a G7, back to C. Repeat. C, F, G7, C, down to G7 for a full measure, alternate. 5, back to C, F, G7, C. 2 measures of C, do the bass note, root note twice, and then G7, back to C. On that last measure, the reason I like to play the bass note, or the root note I should say, twice, because then the root note of the 5 chord is fresh, and you're not going. If you did that, it would be fine, but this is just kind of a bit of a refinement on that, where we don't anticipate the bass note of the next chord. So in that case, you could play the bass note, you could play the root note of the C chord twice to leave that G note fresh for that chord change, or you could play the root in the 3rd. And that makes a nice little bass melody. Okay? Okay, we have a question. Barbara H. Could you do an F bar chord? You certainly could, and that would suit the piece. You can go like this. I'm on the B section. Here's the A section. F, G7, C. You certainly can. I like to use the F bar chord when I want that low F note. I'm not presenting it as the given chord for this because it's a bit more advanced, I think, than some of the folks participating here. F chords on themselves are tricky enough, but certainly if you want to hear that low F bass note, certainly you want to play that F bar chord. That would be the only reason, to play an F bar chord, if you wanted that low F note. Otherwise, you got every other note in your long F, and it's easier to get to from a C chord. Okay? But yeah, I use the bar chords quite often, especially when I want a nice bass melody. Because you can, well, that's a bit off topic, or I should say an extension of this topic, because you can make nice bass melodies out of this. You can go like... And I hear bass melodies all the time because I play this type of accompaniment a lot. and it makes it fun and interesting. And I actually, do play bass as well, and I'll hear those little melodies. I played bass in a band for several years, full time, and that got me really hearing the bass melodies. You don't always have to go root 5, root 5. That's kind of the standard lick, but you can always play around with that and find little bass runs and little melodies that weave between the chords. And that's a really fun part about this style of playing. So moving on to I'll take another question here in a moment. Be sure to send in your questions if you have them, and we will field them at opportune times. Let's just do the B part here while we're on the subject. So this is similar to the A part, it just kind of does the chords in a different order. Before we go here, I should mention the A part of this tune. Oftentimes, you'll hear versions of this where the first and third measures are just a C chord. Like sometimes you'll hear it da 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 da. We're getting a little bit of an embellishment here by doing that little 1 4 5 1, and there's a reason. I'm not just trying to be busier with the chord changes. I'm leading us into our next little arrangement of this tune, which is going to involve those exact chords. So that's why I do sort of what you might say would be the slightly busier version of the chord changes, okay? Moving on to the B part, this is pretty standard. You got your C chord, and an F, right back to C, and then a G7, and then a C to a G7, again, C, G7, and then the same thing all over again, C to an F, to a C, G7, and then 2 beats of C, just like the end of the A part, to one beat of G7, back to C. Okay? So in other words, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 1, 5, 1. Okay? So let's strum through that B section and repeat it nice and slow. Ready and a slow C, boom, F, C, G7, C to G7, back to C to G7, C, F, C, G7, C for 2 beats, G7, back to C, repeat. C, F, C, G7, C, G7, C, G7, back to C, F, C, G7, C, 2 measures, 2 beats, sorry, G7, back to C. You get what I'm saying. So you see those written above the beats, and you see that each beat is beamed. So you'll see 4 16th notes, that's a beat. You see 2 8th notes tied together, that's another beat. It's pretty clear how to read this on the lead sheet. And that's how you read lead sheets. You kind of see the melody happening and you see the chords lined up with those points in the melody. But it's all by the beat. There's nothing syncopated here at all. It's just kind of a busy little chord change on this song, this tune. Can you repeat how you do the 3-note sequences going down the scale? Okay, well, you start on the high note, go down 3 notes, or down 2 notes, I should say, play 3 notes, back to the note you started on, then play down the next 3 notes. And then go to that note you started on, then down the next 3 notes, to the note you started on, and then the next 3 notes. Then the note you started on there, and then the next 3 notes. To the note you started on, and the next 3 notes. The reverse would be those 3 notes, then the note you started on, then the next 3 notes. The next note you started on, then the next 3 notes. Note you started on, next 3 notes. That's a particular type of sequence. There's all kinds of sequences that you can play. That is one type of 3-note sequence. 3 notes, go to the note you started on, next 3 notes to the note you started on, next 3 notes to the note you started on. It's all about remembering which note you started the 3-note phrase on. And you can start it anywhere. And work your way up and down that way. You could do a straight 4-note sequence too. Go down 4 notes, then go down the next 4 notes. Then the next 4 notes. Next 4 notes. So that would sound like... There's all kinds of sequences. You can do a 5-note sequence. Those are trickier when you get to like 5- and 6-note sequences. I wrote a little tune that's a study that does a 6-note sequence. It goes... that kind of thing. Kind of a bit inspired by Arkansas Traveler, I guess. So this tune is kind of special in everybody's memories because this is what taught us, you know, some of us, our first sequence. You could do a straight 3-note sequence all the way down without repeating the high note. You can go like... If I'm doing like fast triplets, I'll go like... like a 3-note sequence. Up and down the scale like so. That's one little advanced trick. Okay, well, good question. Work your sequences, it's always fun. There's sequences of thirds like... That's just playing a note, skipping a note, and then the next set of notes, skip a note. In other words, we call that doing thirds. Root, third, second, fourth, third, fifth. All kinds of sequences. I think I get into that stuff a little more in depth as well in the Bluegrass Flat Picking Method course here on Jamplay. I would encourage those of you who are not members to go ahead and sign up. You get lots of perks. You get the entire website, which has a gazillion lessons in all kinds of styles. And I've got my whole method pretty much on there. But then you also get access to all of these supplemental materials. You can download the tablature. You can download the rhythm track at all 3 tempos to practice along with. So it's a great deal for a monthly or yearly membership here at Jamplay. Let's go ahead and play through these changes along with the rhythm track, okay? Because you're going to hear them exactly as I'm playing them on this rhythm track. And let's go ahead and do that once through the whole tune, and then we got to move on. And let's do this at medium tempo, okay? So let's just strum through the tune here. A 1, 2, ready, and a go. C, F, G7, C, G7, C, F, G7, C, 2 beats of C, G7, C, repeat. so you can practice along with these rhythm tracks at your convenience, all you Jam Play members. Let's go ahead and move on. Chris, if you would pull up the melody strum arrangement. Now this is really fun. I suppose we should, the taters are the same, so let's go ahead and address the taters, okay? And this is just a count-off figure. We've talked about taters already in this series before. This is a little count-off figure. Instead of counting in the song, you would just play this. Into it. So the actual tater rhythm, don't even look at the page yet. Just put your finger on the 3rd fret of the A string and go down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. 1, tater, 2, tater, 3, tater, 4, tater. Okay? That's the tater rhythm, and that's all there is to it, really. You could kick off the song just by doing that. Taters, right? So we've got, you can do 4 taters or 8, it doesn't matter. If you hear somebody kicking off a tune with taters, you better start strumming after 4, because they might just go ahead and start the tune. If they did 8, and you started strumming here, boom, strum, boom, strum, boom, strum, boom, strum, boom, it still sounds cool. It sounds cool to strum over the taters. So I always start strumming after 4 taters, no matter what. Okay, so the little version of the taters we have here is with a hammer on from the 2nd to the 3rd fret, using 2nd and 3rd fingers. One more time. And then we cut the taters short and do a little walk up. To start the tune. So let's go ahead and play those 2 measures of taters as written. A ready and a slow E and a. So that's how taters work. So this is actually a really simple melody strum arrangement because you've already worked up the melody and you've already strummed through the chords. So now we just put the 2 of them together to make this nice little arrangement. So it starts with the same melody, but here, instead of playing that A note twice, we strum an F chord 1 time, and then the low G note, and then you strum just those remaining notes of a G7 chord. So I just play the low note and strum from the D string on up, and then back to a C, strum the remaining notes of the chord. So the way a melody strum arrangement works is exactly like this. You keep the melody in the bass, and oftentimes you have to simplify or abbreviate the melody a little bit to work some chord strums in. And you only strum the treble strings. You strum the higher notes. Okay, so the melody is always going to be the lowest note here. And you don't play the melody again. In other words, you don't do that. You just go. Let me play that better. Okay. So there you go. That's the first measure. And then the next measure, you've got an open D, and then strum those 3 remaining strings of a G7 chord. Then 2nd fret of the D string, same chord, and then the melody. Then the next measure is the same as the first measure. Melody notes, open A, strum the remaining notes of an F chord, those those 4 notes there with the A ringing under it already. And then your low G note, these 4 strings of a G7 chord, back to the C note, and then the remaining notes of the chord right there. And then we've got the same little turnaround figure. With a little strum right there at the end of it. So notice on many of these, including this one, you can actually play that note with a rest stroke, and then your pick is ready to go strumming the remaining notes of the chord. Okay? So this whole A section goes like this. With the taters, I'm just going to play it for you to demonstrate, nice and slow. We got a car alarm. I'm going to close the window. Stand by. Oh, jeez. It's a hot day today. I got the windows open. Those car alarms. Don't you love them? Okay, so there you go. You can hear how it's kind of a self-accompanied version of the tune. If I'm playing it at tempo, it would sound like this. So let's go ahead and work through the B section now. This is equally simple. It's actually very much simplified from the single note version. You simply play an open G string, and then the remaining 2 notes of a C chord, then a F note, and the remaining 3 notes of an F chord, then that E note, and then the remaining 3 notes of a C chord, open D, with your little 1-finger G7. Now a low C note, strum the remaining notes, open D, 1-finger G7, 2nd fret of the D string with the remaining notes of a C chord, open D, 1-finger G7, and then you play the same thing again, open G, remaining 2 notes of a C chord, 3rd fret, the D string, F note with the rest of the F chord there, 2nd fret there like you're holding a C chord, play those remaining notes, open D, 1-finger G7, and then I added kind of a different turnaround here just to kind of show you a variation that you could play that kind of suits this arrangement a little better. You play the low C note, on an upstroke play the D, hammer on to the 2nd fret, then the open G string, high C note, and then down the scale, low C, open D, 3rd fret C, strum. So again, that turnaround figure is low C, open D, hammer on to the 2nd fret. You could pick that if you wanted to, it doesn't matter. Open G, high C note, then 2nd fret of the G, down the scale, open, 3rd fret of the D string, 2nd fret, low C, open D, low C. So that B section goes. Pretty fun, huh? Let's go ahead and try that nice and slow together. Okay, here we go. Ready, and a B part slow, and... Repeat the B part, open G, F, C chord, open D, G7, C, G7, C, G7. Okay, great. Sit with that for a moment. We got another question. Jamie Wilson asks, what do you do with your hand when you're not strumming a note? For, say, a chord, are you just muting a note, not hitting the string at all? I'm just not hitting the string. I'm not doing any muting here. So if you play this exactly as it's written on the tab, it will sound like this. I guess I subconsciously mute low strings because listen, that note's going to ring sympathetically. So I kind of use that finger to mute it, I guess. I mean, I do that just automatically because I've been playing for so long. And I studied classical guitar in college, and they're real particular about not hearing anything that you don't intend to hear. So that's a bit of an advanced technique, but sure, I will, kind of lay, if there's a finger not doing anything, I might lay it across an open string that I don't want to ring out sympathetically. It's a pretty advanced kind of thing, but it's something you don't necessarily need to think about very much. You'll start to get the feel for this as you advance as a guitarist. But that's a good question. I'm going to go ahead and play this entire arrangement once through for you, so you can reference it and go back and hear it again if you need to. This melody strum thing, again, this is all laid out for you very clear, but I want you to gain more than this arrangement. I want you to gain that method. And you could take any simple melody and arrange it this way. Take simple tunes like, I've done this in a lesson here before. In a previous live series, we did When the Saints Go Marching In. And that's a great melody for this kind of thing. It goes... And most of the melodies use this same set of changes. I like doing this in C, and I get into great detail about that in my Bluegrass flat picking method course on Jam Play. And then again, we go through it in the Mastering Bluegrass flat picking course, the new one, which is an extension of that first course. I would take that first course first and then move on to the Mastering Bluegrass guitar. But C position just works really, really well for melody strum. And then beyond that, this is the foundation of cross-picking as well. Talk about that in a moment. But here's the melody strum arrangement as written with taters. We get into tags as well in the Bluegrass flat picking method course. And we'll probably touch upon a tag. There you go. You could just take that one and learn it, right? Anyway, a tag is just a figure that ends the tune. This I figured was plenty of content for a 1 hour live lesson, so we'll just kind of leave it at this for today. But what I would like to do here is demonstrate how I would take this tune and jam on it. So I'm going to play this in a solo arrangement. I'm going to start with kind of a melody strum thing. It's going to be slightly different. It might have a little bit more of a syncopated feel to it. And then I'm going to get into some cross picking. And then I'm going to get into some soloing. I'm just going to jam on the tune for you. Great sounding guitar. What model Martin? This is a 1953 Martin D28. So this is the rosewood version. Vintage, really nice instrument. Martin is still making, top-notch guitars. They're at the top of their game today, as all the other guitar companies. It's all like laser precision these days. This was all hand built. Martin was the original assembly line guitar. They were the first to put them. One luthier, did the neck. One luthier did the sides, and they went down an assembly line. So Martin really made guitar building efficient, and he observed Henry Ford in the Model T when he was creating that. These days Bob Taylor at Taylor Guitars was the first to use CNC machines to like laser cut the wood like very precisely, and since then all the other companies have adopted that. So Martin guitars these days are as consistent as ever. Collings, Taylor, Bourgeois, Santa Cruz. These are some of the top makers of acoustic guitars these days, at least that bluegrass players like. Taylor's actually kind of at the bottom of the list for bluegrass players. Bluegrass players tend to like Martins and Collings and brands like that. Okay, so I'm just going to jam. I could take another question or two here in a moment, but I'm just going to jam on this tune for you to kind of show you what a cool tune it is, all right? I want to try one more thing. I know we're out of time, but so I'm used to playing this capo 3, and I just got to get my mojo working here a little better. So I'm going to play this for you. Pretend that we're not in an educational setting, and I'm just going to play. the tune the way I perform it. There we go. Anyhow, I hope you enjoy this Arkansas Traveler. You can see that there are so many places you can take a tune like this, and I was kind of treating this as a solo tune. Now, if I put on the backing track and jammed along with it, I would have a completely different way of playing this. I wouldn't try to fill it in as much with strums and cross-picking. I wouldn't try to self-accompany quite so much. But I'm trying, my mission here was to get you a nice tune that you could self-accompany with the melody strum style. So that being said, these rhythm tracks, they go through the tune 4 times each at these 3 different tempos, really slow, mid-tempo, and then, performance tempo. So you get plenty of time to jam along with the tune, and you can work on your single note improvisation along with those tracks. And that's a really, really fun thing to do. So, all right. That's it for today. Next week, we'll meet at the same time and do a whole new classic Americana song or tune. I'm not sure which one it is. But anyway, it's all on the syllabus, on the outline at the Jam Play site. Let's just have a quick look, why don't we? Open recent. Here we go. Next week, we are going to learn Shady Grove. That's right. Shady Grove. That is a classic, as classic as it gets. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this. You can always hit me up on the Jam Play site. I noticed there's a couple messages that came in. If you sent me a message and I didn't get back to you, I apologize. I'm going to go get on that this evening and catch up on all the messages. You can always ask a question and raise a concern, anything you want. We are here for you. Okay. Well, thanks again, and thanks, Chris, for running the show, and see you next week.